Alligator Alcatraz is being challenged in court from many different directions here. So we're going to go over some of this now. Alligator Alcatraz detainees allege disease and flooding at Florida facility. The Trump administration is facing increasing pressure over the conditions at immigration detention centers, including at the newly constructed Florida facility known as Alligator Alcatraz. At Alligator Alcatraz, detainees report the unchecked spread of illness, flooding, and a lack of food and of a place to bathe or clean their teeth, according to the lawsuit. Detention officials go cell to cell, pressuring detainees to sign documents agreeing to drop their immigration cases and leave the country voluntarily. At least one man was coerced to sign such a document in exchange for a blanket, the lawsuit alleges. Unlike at other immigration detention facilities, lawyers say they can't see their clients' locations on a regular ICE databases to confirm they are being held at Alligator Alcatraz. Lawyers say they have struggled to access their clients in person to exchange legal documents, meaning they sometimes miss key deadlines, the lawsuit says. So Status Quo has been covering this on the ground quite a bit, and they got some exclusive audio from the wife of an inmate there. So let's listen to this.
As a matter of fact, the cage where he's in right now, everyone is sick. And what they're doing is they're putting on a certain type, a color, different bracelet that states to the guards who's sick and who's not. But yes, there are 2 full cages right now where as they come in or they get sick, they're being put in those cages. There's a lot of people with stomach viruses, vomiting, diarrhea. There's other with respiratory issues. Could it be from the mold that they're breathing in? But everybody's being put. They're not being categorized or separated by infection. Sometimes it'll go for a day or 2 days and they don't receive any meds. So they're kind of scared. There are people that are starting to go crazy and anxious because everybody's scared. Nobody knows what's going on with their cases. Nobody has access. And even though they tell them that their attorneys can come in, attorneys can only do so much because there's no one in the system. Right. And like Marco, everybody's in the same situation. No one has no information. Marco says it feels like they have all been kidnapped.
Yeah, it's all fun and games when Benny Johnson shows up outside the gates with his merch and things like that. And, they take great pleasure or took great pleasure in advertising that this is hell on earth, that it's uninhabitable. But it really is uninhabitable for most people. The people who live out here are natives who go back hundreds of years. So, they
know how to live there.
They've adopted a way of life that makes them comfortable there, which we're going to hear from in a bit. But of course, this is going to happen. Of course, this is a horror show just waiting to unfold. So Christopher Webb tweets out, "Shut this concentration camp down." Attorneys for a Venezuelan man who collapsed inside Alligator Alcatraz are accusing the facility of failing to provide adequate care for sick detainees. Let's take a quick look at this.
That's just one of the phone calls we received from inside the detention facility, all indicating a medical emergency Tuesday of a Venezuelan man, now identified as Luis Manuel Rivas Velasquez, his family not knowing if he was dead or alive.
We heard from him this morning. Basically, he lost consciousness, passed out. They pulled him out of the facility, put him in an ambulance, and took him to a hospital in Miami. At which point he was chained to a bed while he was given treatment.
His attorneys tell us he's back at the facility.
He said that many people were sick at the facility with similar types of symptoms.
They're now accusing the facility of failing to provide adequate care for sick detainees.
So back to the article. Detention officials go cell to cell. Oops, sorry. That was a repeat. In the new filing, detainees are asking the court to allow meaningful access to lawyers and to identify the court where they can challenge detentions at Alligator Alcatraz. A different Florida judge earlier this month ordered a temporary pause to expanding the facility while she considers a lawsuit alleging that the federal government failed to conduct a required environmental review before the facility opens. And that suit was brought by the aforementioned native tribe. So the Mikasuki tribe has halted the construction of Alligator Alcatraz. This was a week ago. The Mikasuki tribe of Indians of Florida filed suit alongside Friends of the Everglades and Center for Biological Diversity to stop the unpermitted construction of Alligator Alcatraz adjacent to traditional Mikasuki villages. The Southern District of Florida has granted a temporary restraining order that halts further construction activities at the immigration detention facility located at the Everglades Jetport, commonly referred to as Alligator Alcatraz. In the words of Chairman Talbert Cypress of the Mikasuki Tribe of Indians of Florida, we welcome the court's decision to pause construction on this deeply concerning project. The detention facility threatens land that is not only environmentally sensitive but sacred to our people. While this order is temporary, it is an important step in asserting our rights and protecting our homeland. The Mikasuki tribe will continue to stand for our culture, our sovereignty, and the Everglades. So let's take a look at this. This was like I said, a temporary victory to halt construction of the facility.
Today that any building going on must stop. The federal judge's order is only temporary.
Workers are now on a 2-week timeout while the judge considers if the migrant detention center violates environmental laws. Local 10's Janine Stanwood is near Ochopee with the latest.
As night falls Thursday, cars and trucks are in and out of Alligator Alcatraz after a late ruling that while the facility can still house detainees, no new construction work is allowed for the next 2 weeks. No paving, no filling, no infrastructure work.
You know, I was very enthusiastic when I heard that we had this temporary halt in construction. So I was like, it's better late than never, and it gave me a sign of hope. We're not making it up. We're actually providing documentation as to what we're seeing.
Activist Betty Osceola is with the Mikasuki tribe, which along with environmental groups made their case to a federal judge in Miami that the site threatens sensitive wetlands and violates federal environmental law.
I don't understand the environmental concerns.
White House borders
I don't understand those concerns. I was raised in a metal box and I turned out just fine. I didn't see the sun until I was 15 years old, and look at me. A picture of health and wellness.
Tom Homan dismissed those concerns, saying the aging airstrip at the site existed prior to its current use as an immigration detention facility.
They're moving, sewage water in and out every day. So I don't see any environmental impact.
But the judge still granted the temporary halt after the state refused to stop work voluntarily. Reacting to the ruling, the plaintiffs wrote, "We're pleased that the judge saw the urgent need to put a pause on additional construction, and we look forward to advancing our ultimate goal of protecting the unique and imperiled Everglades ecosystem from further damage caused by this mass detention facility." Miami-Dade County Mayor Daniela Levine Cava applauding the ruling as a, quote, overdue and necessary step as major concerns persist about conditions on site and environmental impacts. But a spokesman for Florida's Attorney General disagrees, writing that the judge's order is wrong and, quote, we will fight it. However, it does not shut down Alligator Alcatraz, which will continue to send illegal aliens back to where they came from. This lawsuit is one of 2 legal challenges to this facility in the middle of the Everglades. The judge in this case is still considering whether to issue a longer-term injunction. We're outside of Ochopee. I'm Janine Stanwood, Local 10 News.
And yesterday, the judge delayed ruling on Alligator Alcatraz as environmental groups push for shutdown. So there are disputes about jurisdiction because this was a state-run project. Technically, they are arguing at the state level that the project should be allowed to go on as planned because of it should not be like I said, subject to the sort of federal environmental regulations, which, of course, the judge seems to think that this is both a federal and a state project, since, of course, it's being done with input from the federal government. Donald Trump went there himself. It's obvious. I mean, this is an ICE facility. And so they punted. So we'll cross our fingers and hopefully the whole project will be shut down soon. But here is Betty Osceola once again speaking about the imperative to try and shut this facility down and to not give up.
A lot of history. This is Earth Day was born here.
The EPA was created out of here. Friends of the Everglades was born here. And this is a vast area that they're just looking at a runway, but that's a big county property that encompasses a lot of area that we access. And our ceremonial grounds are right next door. Right there, our ancestors, right where they're doing all this, our ancestors were laid to rest. It has the potential to blow the door to development wide open again, just like it did in the late 60s and 70s. I never thought in my lifetime I'm going to be fighting development here again, like my mother and other individuals in her time did. Yet here we are.
So as an organization, we are youth focused, and so we wanted to know what message would you want to leave with young people who are learning about this issue?
Have hope. Don't give up. I'm not here today because my ancestors gave up. Some of them, came through a long, hard struggle, died for us to be here today. Don't let anybody put that hopelessness into your heart, because once you have that hopelessness, you've already lost the battle.
And what she's referring to is this history of resilience and survival. The Seminoles and the Mikasuki are called the unconquered people, according to the Department of State of Florida. So this is off of their own website here. The Seminoles of Florida call themselves the unconquered people, descendants of just 300 Indians who managed to elude capture by the U.S. Army in the 19th century. Today, more than 2,000 live on 6 reservations in the state, located in Hollywood, Big Cypress, Brighton, Immokalee, Fort Pierce, and Tampa. Run-ins with white settlers were becoming more regular by the turn of the century. Settlers wanted Indian land and their former slaves back. In 1817, these conflicts escalated into the first of 3 wars against the United States. Future U.S. President Andrew Jackson invaded then Spanish Florida, attacked several key locations, and pushed the Seminoles farther south into Florida. After passage of the Indian Removal Act in 1830, the U.S. government attempted to relocate Seminoles to Oklahoma, causing yet another war, the Second Seminole War. After defeating the U.S. in early battles of the Second Seminole War, Seminole leader Osceola, notice Betty Osceola, a descendant of this bloodline, was captured by the United States. In October 20th, 1837, when U.S. troops say they wanted a truce to talk peace. By May 8th, 1858, when the United States declared an end to conflicts in the Third War with the Seminoles, more than 3,000 of them had been removed west of the Mississippi River. That left roughly 200 to 300 Seminoles remaining in Florida, hidden in the swamps. For the next 2 decades, little was seen of Florida Seminole, at least not until trading posts opened in the late 19th century at Fort Lauderdale, Chokoloskee, and other places. That's when some Seminoles began venturing out to trade. And the last video here, the Mikasuki tribe's relationship with the Everglades. Let's take a look at this quick video here.
Land. And back when the U.S. government was trying to remove the natives from the south, they were trying to move them west to Oklahoma. And so the Mikasuki, we resisted. And we went into the swamps to hide and to protect ourselves. And traditionally, the swamp was our protector and our place where we have all our medicines and our cultural resources. But what ended up happening is that it saved us from that removal and from that huge change in life that we avoided. When you talk to other natives or you talk to Mikasukis, we feel that we came from the land and that we were born from it. And so to ignore that and to not respect it and take care of it, what that will lead to is that you won't respect yourself and take care of yourself. You won't respect others and take care of others. So it starts with the relationship with the land. That's kind of where our culture comes from.
So you had a couple hundred people survive this campaign of ethnic cleansing and extermination in the middle of the 19th century by retreating into the swamps and basically hiding out. And then they formed their own civilization here. And I find it kind of a poetic story that they are now leading the fight against this immigrant detention center when they had their own illegal immigrant problem to handle a couple hundred years ago. And these, few tribes people now are descendants of the survivors of that struggle. It just goes to show what Betty said in there. Don't give up. Don't give up. Keep fighting. And these native peoples fought and won. And hopefully they get another victory here. The fact that the judge punted and gave this another week, so construction on the facility is halted. And if they get a victory on the 21st, that could hopefully be the end of this project, at least according to what the judge wants. Then there is another legal battle of, does the Trump administration honor that, or did they tell them to go get their fucking shine box? But those are the latest out of here. It's just, I don't know. There's something, like I said, just kind of, there's a certain poetic beauty to the fact that the natives are leading this charge, I think.
Yeah, this was always just a sick idea, like so many of the ideas that come out of this administration. But when you look at this and you look at the history that it reveals, the past is always being redefined by the present. And a lot of people have long argued that we didn't defeat fascism, we absorbed it.
Right.
We incorporated it. If you look at the history of this country, doesn't it look more like a fascist country than any other model of government that you could think of? What's it more like? Is it more like a fascist country, or is it more like a socialist country? Is it more like a communist country? Or is it more, when you look at the spectrum of ideologies, a country that was literally built on genociding the native population, pushing them onto reservations on which they still live to this day in large numbers, many of which are beset by problems of drugs, poverty, alcoholism, that are part of the legacy of the pain of that history and the destruction of their culture and what comes with that. That had this enormous slave population that it continues to keep in poverty and social disenfranchisement down to this day, as part of that legacy. These people who couldn't really vote universally until the 60s, and for quite a while after that, still couldn't do so safely. That's a fascist country. Like we can see in history, if you go back to the ancient democracies that the United States is based on, this idea that you have democracy for an elite class in the society, like that's not new. That's a very old idea.
Right.
Like where you have seen voting, it's tended beyond the tribal level. It's tended to be that a certain class of people gets to enjoy these benefits. That's really what America has been. If there's been an innovation, it's been that you haven't had to own land in order to vote. You could be a working white guy voting, but for a lot of our history, that only applied to those people. And as soon as you got this civil rights movement where you started to perhaps realize this promise of an egalitarian democracy that would not in any way favor any class of societies, and that's something that truly has never existed in history. What did they do? They started the war on drugs, and they built the carceral state.
Yep.
So that you would take all those black people, we can't stop them from voting this way. Well, we'll disenfranchise them that way. Oh, we can't enslave them this way. We'll enslave them that way.
That's the new Jim Crow. That's the book. Yeah.
Right. So at that point, can you say this has ever been anything other than really a fascist society? You could say the Trump administration, this was something that Taibbi argued in his first term when he wrote Insane Clown President, that the real issue people have with Donald Trump is he's taken the ugly mask off the ugly reality of what America is. And that's exactly right. When you look at things like this, it's not as much, if you're calling this a complete sea change in American culture, you're missing the point. It's not. It's a consummation of everything American culture has been leading up to and everything it implies.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a culmination, even down to the specifics on cruelty to migrants, right? I mean, the country's been very cruel to immigrants for a long time. You know, this is taking it to cartoonish lengths because the difference here is that with Trump, it's part of the marketing, it's part of the branding, right? You do this for the sake of doing it because it's good theater, because you get pieces of shit like Benny Johnson who will show up outside the gates of this place hawking merch. Is he going to follow up on what the conditions are here? When I'm sorry, look, I hate to say this. I hope to God I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. I think it's only a matter of time before someone dies.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's not livable.
No question
It's not
about
livable. You already got people going crazy, people sick, you know. Yeah. I mean, there's, you know, I heard something about, you know, they have color-coded bracelets to determine who's sick and who's not in one of the cages, right? So rather than moving people around and stuff like that, they just let the guards know that way. No, it's not a habitable place for most people. Most people, these tribes people have been living there for 200 years. They have adapted. That's why they feel such connection to the land, because it's kind of theirs, and they were able to establish sovereignty by making peace with the environments and by hiding out from the conquerors and staving off, you know, a campaign of genocide and ethnic cleansing against them. But yeah, no, it's not a place that is set up for this. And the sickness to be part of the marketing. Oh, this is hell on earth. If you get out, you're going to get eaten by an alligator. I mean, just really sick, horrible shit. And like I said, there's something really kind of poetic about the fact that the natives are leading the charge against it. So we will have more to say on this in 1 week. In 1 week, they're going to issue their final ruling on this. So we will see what that brings.
Please clap.